There's part 2 of the weekly Waffle with Racetrack Ralphy, Danny Power. For those not in Melbourne watching this, it probably won't make a lot of sense to you, or Southern Seaboard, because it's a bit of an AFL issue that...
Someone speaking English, it might make a lot of sense to them.
There's that. As far as Dane Swan, there's a Collingwood footballer, big dramatic news, he was appearing on a footy show being interviewed. I don't think it gets any more serious than that, a footballer being interviewed. Dan, you're an old newspaper man. There was the first, before it got to where, a lot of the talk was a paid interview. How dare he do a paid interview? Cash for comment type thing. What's your background as far as your position, as far as getting an earn for doing an interview? What do you think?
Well, I've never been paid for an interview.
Exactly.
But why wouldn't you be paid for an interview? If he's, it was probably negotiated by his management.
No doubt. Well, I think that's been made pretty clear since.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
No, negotiated by his management. He probably would have done it for free had there been no management involved. But the management saw an opportunity for an earn for him.
Yep.
And he wanted to talk. So as it is, he didn't tell us much. But he got paid. I got no issue with that. It's not uncommon in that game, is it? All those players that are on the panel are paid.
All the players on the panel are paid. And this is the thing, I saw a lot of newspaper journalists, or Rowan Connolly, I've got great respect for, Rights for the Age, but he said about paid interviews, paid this, paid that. Here's the query, and it's two-part. First part is, if Gary Lyon or Robert Murphy or Matthew Lloyd gives the Age an exclusive through doing the columns, their regular columns that they get paid for, isn't that getting paid for?
Well, they do a column.
That's what I'm saying. So they're the columnists?
They don't do it for free.
No. But if all of a sudden, instead of writing an observational column, Robert Murphy gives a big story about the Bulldogs, or Lloydie about their sin, and it gets picked up elsewhere, well, they're still getting paid.
Yeah, they do.
What am I missing?
I'm not missing
anything. Part two of it, and this is where Rowan's got a point, that access to players are restricted by the clubs.
Yeah.
So that's what, when you're in a footy show, and I was for 9 years, by the way, you go around the back door.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it doesn't give you, you don't get a pat in the back from your employer for saying, well, you know what, the club wouldn't let us talk to this bloke that everyone wants to hear from.
Well, I know the issues when I work, because I'm involved with the AFL in recent years with Slattery Media, and I know the issues trying to get, just to talk to a player to ask him, you know, how his game was on Saturday. You've got to jump through hoops, and the first one, there's levels that you've got to get through, you know, and the first one's usually the attack dog media advisor who says no, because that's all they ever say, no.
You know, we say we get head wobble when we tip one over 10 to 1. The head wobble on AFL media representatives, as a rule, not all of them, but as a rule, geez, they're on good terms with their position. That fair income, all they're doing is just teeing up.
I reckon they wear green. When they in the office, they put the green coat on, like the bloke, the car park man.
That's exactly right. They are car park attendants who work at footy clubs.
Exactly.
And the greatest thing, I was in the footy media for 12 years. The greatest thing about not being in the footy media is not having to deal with these people. Yeah. And some of which are nice people, but some of them are fetting them way too far ahead of themselves for that very reason.
Yeah, yeah. The racing industry is interesting because our players in that racing industry generally don't get paid. Now, I personally believe some of them should.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Clarkin, no, you wouldn't pay Daniel Clarkin.
Trainer of Miracle's Life, yeah.
Trainer of Miracle's Life, because this is publicity money can't buy, and it's a one-off for him, and he's going to be struggling to get that sort of publicity ever again. So he's going to lap at it, but jump at it. But whereas, like a Lee Freedman, when he moves down to an hour and a half out of the city and he's required to come up for a promotion of the Spring Carnival, I believe he should be paid, because it's half his day gone. And I believe Lee did demand payment, and I think Racing Victoria did actually pay him in one Spring Carnival.
And during the
Mackay time.
Well, during the Mackay
time. And I don't know whether Peter Moody's paid. I suspect he probably is.
Well, what did happen
for all these stable visits for Black Caviar? I'd be stunned if he's not paid.
But what did happen during the England trip is that the Black Caviar team, obviously including Peter Moody, signed a deal with TVN, and TVN fed the division out, but also it was a commercial arrangement, as it should have been. Fair enough, because everyone wants you. And
I don't mind that, as long as the stuff they sent back was truthful and fair and reasonable.
Yeah.
We found out later it was all bullshit. We got how good she's going, how well she is. We didn't get an insight.
Exactly.
The insight came later.
And that's probably again, getting back to the Dane Swan part, the tipping point, was the, you know, if he's going to make the footy show make more money, because it's promoted and it's exclusive, even if he says nothing. Well, if the footy show, a commercial arrangement, is going to make more money out of it, why shouldn't Dane Swan get an earn back out of it?
Yeah.
Because it helped the footy show make money. So I think that was fair enough. Then eventually the penny dropped, because I did tweet this out. This has got nothing to do with money. He just happens to be getting paid because the footy show are promoting it, and it was to do with getting back at their camps, the Swan camp's perception that Collingwood left him hanging out to dry after a Caroline Wilson article.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm telling you that's what the perception
was.
Yeah.
And
because the proof being, after it went on the footy show, what did they do? They held up the Caroline Wilson article, and Charlie Happel's written about this on Backpage Lead. It's a good little insight there, but the difference was that one camp thought that they were hung out to dry. Nathan Buckley tweeted out at the time of this Caroline Wilson article, "Don't ever think you're sticking up for you're speaking for Collingwood, Caroline." But Eddie Maguire and Gary Pert didn't say anything at the time.
No.
So,
and which gave me the impression that Eddie Maguire and Gary Pert may have been quite happy for the story to be out.
Well, at worst, it gave the Swan camp that impression. So this was all about, to me, getting back at them for that, whether it's right or wrong. And then it since got pretty personal between Eddie and now Liam Pickering. But Craig Hutchison then went on to speak on his show on SEN on Saturday morning.
He didn't have a biased opinion, though, would he?
No, the point that Hutchie was bringing up, and it's well worth finding on the Off the Bench website, it was a big chat about the paranoia of AFL footy clubs, about stomping on players and not letting them speak. And that actually becomes the friend of the good journalist, or the good TV show who can write a cheque. Had, the day after Caroline Wilson wrote the article, a culture had been that you speak to everyone who wants to speak to you.
Yeah.
Well, Dane Swan would have been doing a presser, and it would have been dead within 2 days.
Yeah.
Because he said that's what happens in the States.
But they let it fester.
Exactly. And as a journalist, that you're now in competition with a footy club. Last year, Collingwood released on their website an exclusive interview with Scott Pendlebury signing as soon as they got wind that the footy show was going to announce it. So you're actually in competition with the footy club on their media department as well. So it's so many different levels to it. So it's an interesting point. But bringing back to racing, and what you just said earlier, trainers and jockeys are so accessible to the media. They are absolute credit to themselves.
Incredibly accessible. In fact, up until recently, for some strange reason in Racing Victoria's magazine, Inside Racing, we bought it. Their addresses were in the pages. Their addresses were in there. We've since removed them.
That's probably too much access.
Too much access for Joe Bloggs to go and buy a magazine. Anyway, the address is there. So
but, you can tell every Friday on Shane Anderson show on RSN, and which I'm part of, but Hoss Bensley, TVN, Sky Channel, the newspapers, and I don't know of any trainer or jockey except a couple don't like an Indian personality. That's fair enough. That's up to them. But they pretty much make themselves available all the time.
That's right. That's fine.
Conversely,
anyone has to put up with Hoss Bensley ringing in here 5 minutes. They should get paid.
How much water was on that Fleming track?
10.84 mil.
Conversely, where Racing Victoria was criticised last spring was the lack of access to information and people being upfront about the Damien Oliver inquiry. Damien Oliver rightfully looked terrible on the news when he released a prepared statement. He could have just gone out and said, "Right, guys, what do you want to ask me? But I'll tell you now. My lawyer said I can't say too much, but that's out of my hands. That's what everyone's entitled to legal advice." Instead, by releasing a statement, what does he do? He incentivises the media to hang outside his doorstep.
I think that was racing very much, and the racing industry, they're much trying to do something it's not used to doing, and that is close the shop. Let's protect the brand, and it's really, they don't do it well.
No.
They don't do it well.
And Rob Hines made himself very unavailable to the media during that whole, not only that bun fight, but the Terry Bailey and Danny Nicklick bun fight.
And also got a little bit not so aggressive, but he gave the impression he was back against the wall and struggling.
Exactly, and that the media was at fault. We had some bad press. You didn't have bad press, you had some very good press from Nick McKenzie and those likes about stories that didn't reflect well on racing. Well, that's when you do get in the front foot and you tell people what it is and you answer every inquiry. And
it's like when you own somebody money, ring them first.
Exactly.
It's like, I can't pay. It sort of stops them from throwing a punch at you.
So I think what all this proves is that one thing racing has got on just about every sport, and we're seeing the debacle in cricket at the moment, is that the participants, jockeys and trainers, are actually world's best practice when it comes to availability of the media.
Yep.
That's it. Part 2.